Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm just gonna bring this back down and all right, so we're live here and first of all, before we get started, again, just my name's Corey Perlman. I was talking to the folks at SEMA before we jumped on here and reminiscing a bit because SEMA, I'm a professional speaker, and so I've been doing this for 11 plus years, and SEMA has been near and dear to my heart almost since the beginning. I've been to SEMA. I underestimated, I think, at least 6 times, and 5 times in a row. And it's been the one that I honestly look forward to most, partly just because it's the coolest show I get to go to all year. And so I'm really sad that we will not be face to face together in November. And it's just another thing with this COVID-19 that has really just shook us to the core and just kind of stopped us from being able to physically get together. However, as we also talked about, there's some shining lights, some things that I think that will happen, have happened, can happen, that will make us better off in the long term than if it never happened at all. And one of those things is the ability to be able to provide this education in a different way, from the comforts of hopefully your own homes or your businesses, and the ability to be able to extend this out beyond just a couple of days together, but throughout obviously these webinar series that SEMA is putting together, and then hopefully later on down the road with the show. But I just want to tell you all, if you've seen me present there before, if you haven't, SEMA is family to me. I'm honored to be with you all and look forward to hopefully giving you some things that will be helpful. I don't normally do this presentation. This presentation is specific to the times that we're going through right now, and I really wanted to make sure that I gave you some do's and don'ts of things that I feel like we can do today, while some of us have either had to hit the pause button or have had to adjust our businesses, due to COVID-19. So we're going to jump in here. If you want to play with the question bar there in GoToMeeting, feel free to do that. Maybe type in and let me know where you're located and the name of your business. That will also be the place that you can ask some questions as we go along here, and the team will interrupt me and let me know if we have any questions that are current to the topic that we're going after. If you want to connect with me online, Instagram's a great place to do it. Twitter. You can find me easily everywhere, but I'd love to connect with you wherever you'd like to, and let me know what you thought about today's program. So the number one question I always get with my presentation, because it is a content heavy presentation, is can you have my slides? And the answer is 100% yes. You simply can take out your cell phones and text the word slides to the number 66866. So again, just text the word slides to the number 66866. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, or you don't want to do that, I'm going to give you my email address at the end of the presentation. You can just shoot me an email and ask for the slides. I'm happy to respond to you and send those over, just so you have them to look back through and review at your own leisure. Again, if you have questions, use that question box. And I always like to mention in the beginning, I am not against hearing feedback, especially if it's constructive. And if there's anything that you feel like I could have done better or you wish I would have covered, there's a platform that I like to specifically get that on. It's called MySpace. So if you want to go ahead and post it over there, I think the 3 people that are still on there would be happy to take a look at that. And even this guy may respond. If some of you remember Tom, I'm immediately dating myself, because those of you who giggled at that joke are probably of the age of, say, 35 and above, and remember MySpace and your first friend Tom. So there you go, cheap laugh for those of us that are not millennials. Okay, all right, here we go. The serious stuff. Let's get going here. These are all do's and don'ts during times of uncertainty. And my first do, it's the first do that I created when we got into this mess back in March. And I kept getting questions of, Corey, as a business, what should we be doing right now? And still to this day, we are in August and we don't know what the fall is to bring, and we are in the thick of it. And so the big giant question is, should we take a pause? Should we post less? Should we let people figure out their lives without bothering them with our stuff? The answer is, to me, the answer is no. I would double down in the other direction. It's just a matter of how we do it. So the answer to this is do connect, do stay top of mind, do stay in touch with your fans, with your customers, with your prospects. Just do it in a way that is current to the times. So a couple of things on that. Number one, I'm going to mention a couple of things, a couple actions that I want us to take during the time that we are on our computers more than ever before. Some of you are maybe busier than ever before. Some of you may be getting tons of business, but a lot of you have slowed down a bit and are not seeing the business that you're used to, and may have some time to work on the business instead of in the business. And so my hope for you is that when we circle back and we press the play button, that we don't regret the slower time that we had to do things that bettered our business for the future. One of those things is building a larger pool to market to. So this is the time to build our audience. People are online more than ever before right now. Why are we not connected with them? What do I mean by that? How's your Instagram following doing? How's your Facebook audience? Do you have Twitter connections, on Twitter or TikTok or Snapchat or wherever you are? My goal for you is to expand that audience by 10%. Look for ways to connect to the tribe that you're not currently connected with that you should be. These are people in your area. These are people who have the passion for autos and for SEMA related businesses, for racing, that type of thing. But let's find ways to build our tribe so that when business is back to normal, we have a bigger sandbox to play in. With our current connections, how do we deepen those relationships? This is a huge one to me. Who are your long-standing clients? Who are your long-standing customers? Those that repeatedly buy from you. Maybe you have some, just some clients that constantly come back, constantly are ordering parts from you, services, that type of thing. But you know who your VIPs are. Have they heard from you? Maybe they're not buying from you right now because they're suffering, or their business is suffering. But this is the opportunity to not ignore them, not wait for them, but for us to reach out and connect. I remember when this began, I had two different experiences. One from my accountant, which I never heard from. During the whole PPP loan thing and all this different stuff, and I was totally confused, as I'm sure a lot of you were, never heard anything. And that bothered me. And then at the contrary, my bank, which was PNC Bank, out of the blue called me on my cell phone. It was the business banker at the local branch here, and he said, "Corey, I'm simply calling to see how I can support and help you. I know there's a lot going on, and I'm yours, man. You tell me what you need, and I'll help." And he did, and I still tell that story to this day. And so that's what I'm talking about, doubling down on seeing how we can support and help the people who have supported us over the years. So make those contacts, shoot those messages out, shoot a text, shoot an email out without asking for anything, but simply asking, how can we help? Add value. So the question, of course, when it comes to social media content, I said you still need to add content, to create content. What type of content should you be creating? Simply to add value. People may not be buying right now, but they are, working on their cars. They are trying to run their businesses. They are doing the things that they normally do, but are lacking in, business opportunities. So how can you support and help them? That's what we should be creating online. So figure out ways to support and help your tribe and use that as your guide for content. Show your face. What I mean by that simply is, we're in a very disconnected world right now in terms of face-to-face contact. So any opportunity for you to connect, again, with your tribe, face-to-face, let's do it. What does that mean? More video. Maybe doing some Facebook Lives, maybe doing some Zooms, and getting some of your tribe together that may not know each other, and have the opportunity to, once again, just like you would do surrounding a car at SEMA, do it on a Zoom and talk about the passion that is your industry, and let them have that conversation that you helped create, just to create some of that camaraderie that we miss so much from being face to face. But figure out ways to do that, because that'll serve you well in the long run. And this is a long-term play. This is not a short-term play. This isn't going to sell more products tomorrow, but this is how stories are told next year. You know what ABC Business did while we were in this mess? You know, they were awesome and they supported and they kept with me. I will never forget that. That's the stories that we want to hear. Don't try to be everywhere. So I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm going to tell you it again for those of you who are not used to me. I'm a big fan of not being a jack of all social media sites, master of none, but instead of doing a few and doing them really well. So I really want you all to be focused on the platforms where your audience lives. So you got to think about who your demographic is. Who are the people who love your products, love your services, and where are they living online? What's their age group? Are they male, female? You know, their location, that type of thing. And then we need to prioritize the platforms. And I want you to do a digital audit of your brand. This is a great time to do this. This is a COVID-19 due for the time that we're in right now. Go out and look at your brand on social and find the places that you've created a profile that you're not managing, because that's doing you more harm than good. There's a possibility that a prospect may stumble upon this Twitter profile or this Snapchat or this LinkedIn page that you never use. And it's either not doing you any good, or at worst, it's doing you harm. And that's making somebody think, are they still in business? You know, are they, you know, around anymore? Are they, you know, connected in the 21st century with only 3 connections on LinkedIn? So make a choice, either delete it or decide to manage it, but don't ignore it. Don't let it collect dust online. It's serving you no good. And simply you know, getting in the way from you potentially doing business with folks. Delete inactive profiles. So we're going to launch this poll really quickly, if you don't mind, and I'm going to ask you to, you're going to see something pop up on your screen here momentarily, and I simply want you to pick the sites that you believe that your tribe is active on. So I want you to look at these different platforms. I tried to choose the 5 that I figured might be on there. The only one that is not going to be on there is LinkedIn, and that's because we only had 5 choices to go from. But if LinkedIn is one for you, just write it down. But go ahead and pick a couple of the 5 options that you see on your screen. You should see it popping up here. Yep. There you go. So which platforms do you believe your audience frequents most? You can pick more than one answer, but try to pick 1 or 2 where you believe you should be spending the most time. We'll give you a minute to do that. And as you're figuring that out, you know, a couple things to note, and I think you all know this, but it's important to recognize it. The average demographic on Snapchat is 16 to 26. It's even younger for TikTok. Instagram are, you know, majority millennials, but trending upwards. So your people like me who are in the in between, the Zennials, if you will, of Generation X and millennials, love Instagram. So it's sort of your current and very, very soon future buyers are definitely on Instagram. Facebook is the only social network that can use the B word, the billions, and but is obviously more of a older audience. So of course, the question you have to ask is what is the demographics of your audience? Are they teetering on the young 20s, where of course Snapchat and TikTok may be prominent, or are they still in the 30s to 40s range, where Instagram and Facebook? It should give you the opportunity to at least start to think about where your priorities reside, where you should be focusing your attention and your time. If it's all 4 of those, if Twitter is also included in that, at minimum, I would highly recommend that you prioritize your areas so that you are making sure that your top 2 that you know without a shadow of a doubt are actively managed, are growing your following, and you are engaging with your audience there. Because those are the ones where the majority of your audience is engaging with you.
All right, so let me jump in while they're trying to fix the technical stuff on the back
Okay.
end. I got fed some results, which said that 87% of people picked Facebook
Wow.
target for them. 74% said Instagram, 17% said Twitter.
Wow.
Um, so let's talk about that because, for a long time, Facebook has been the default.
Yes.
It was the one everybody knew and everybody was on it. Um, you know, do you have any insights on us on trends around, what's going on with that? Should people be switching and looking at these other things more aggressively?
Yeah, and we're good to go, by the way. So thank you guys for working on that. I should be good. Yeah, the thing that should make people feel a little bit better is I always kind of make the joke that everybody gets so anti-Facebook and they run away and they're like, I'm leaving Facebook and I'm heading over to Instagram. Ha ha, screw you, Facebook. Well, Facebook owns Instagram, right? They own a lot of the world, right? So they're like, go ahead, we would love for you to enjoy Instagram and still pay us money. So I think that if Facebook and Instagram, they work so well together, they're sister and brother. If you know the Facebook ad platform, for example, you know the Instagram platform. If you know how to use stories on Instagram, you know how to use stories on Facebook. So it's nice that they work so hand in hand together. And I mean, for the majority of you guys, I said earlier that Snapchat and TikTok are not my places. So if that's your world, there's probably some great opportunities for you to learn more about those. But if I had to guess right now, today, who your buyer is, Facebook and Instagram still are probably the lion's share and maybe for at least the next couple of years. So you really want to make sure you've got strong platforms there. And then the rest of them, although very important and still should be managed, probably take a back seat. All right, so we're good to go to keep moving here. But feel free to, if any other questions come up, thank you for the SEMA team to help me with that, the technical issues there. So another don't for you is don't wind up on websitesthatsuck.com. And I'm also another big fan of websites, and I'm going to tell you why. All the other things we're going to talk about today are what we would put in the category of rented land, meaning that you do not own it. You don't own your TikTok page, you don't own your Facebook page, your Snapchat page, your Instagram page. They are all owned by those big conglomerates. And at any moment, they can change the rules in the game on us, as you have seen in the past. Facebook, for example, when we used to have our business pages 10 years ago, 8 years ago, we could post something on there and everybody would see it. Now only a small percentage see it without paying money to Facebook. You've seen Google Plus, the social network, suddenly disappear and go away overnight. And so on and so forth. So the rules change. Whereas your website is an asset that you own and that will live on forever for as long as you are in business. And so I think it is a very important piece of real estate, online real estate, that we need to pay attention to. So I want to give you some best practices. And for any of you that have seen me before, I always give best practices to websites when I'm on stage, but this time I'm going to give you some best practices specific to the times that we're in, or at least a few of them. So here are a couple of those. And what I mean, so normally what I would tell you is you obviously want to have a mobile responsive website. So again, because we have extra time on our hands, great time to be working on our business instead of in our business. So another one of those important but not urgent projects is making our website truly mobile responsive. So what I want you all to do when we're done with this webinar today is to go to your cell phones and navigate your website using your phone. And specifically, I want you to try to do it just with your thumb, just like somebody would do if they were navigating your site. You know we don't like to use both hands. You know we don't want to have to squeeze in information. I want to have a seamless experience. And most of the time when I do this with your websites, the home page is great. Some of the main navigations are great, but then it's the other pages. It's the fill in the blank pages. It's in some ways, the most important pages are not mobile responsive. So go through all the pages. And if there's any page that turns from mobile responsive to static, I want you to get that fixed. I want you to be able to leave the COVID-19 behind with a beautiful mobile responsive website that people can easily navigate, whether they're on a smartphone, a iPad, or a large desktop. When I mention important information above the fold, what I mean by that is no matter how big or small your device is, the critical information needs to be on the top. And what I simply mean by that is don't make people scroll. So if they're on a cell phone, they're moving their thumb up and down. If they're on the computer, don't make them scroll. If it's important, right? Why would we want somebody to potentially miss critical information? And typically that critical information is the phone number, maybe your physical address, your email address, and that still is very important. But in addition to that, it's also what's happening today. So for some of you businesses right now, you have different hours because of COVID. You have different safety procedures because of COVID. You have, you want to assure the general public that you're taking precautions if you're a service-based business. These are all things that should be prominent on the front page of your website. So I don't mind you removing your opt-in box, or maybe even like some of the critical piece of real estate where you show images and such, to put up COVID-19 information, because it's important right now. And it could stop somebody from wanting to do business with you, but if you assure them that they feel comfortable working with you. And the other thing that you want to be careful with is if you've changed things and you don't represent that on your website, that can lead to some major customer issues. Imagine me stopping in your store and you not being open because you have different hours due to COVID, but it didn't change on your website. That's a frustrating experience that should not have to happen to a potential customer. And then social icons. I've talked about, you know, making sure you're managing your social media icons. And so a lot of you have the default social icons on your website. This is the kind of thing that you don't think about. You're busy in your business. But when I go to your websites, you have all the different social media icons on there. And if I happen to click on a few of them, some of them you're not managing. In fact, as you see here on this website, you'll see up at the top there, there's the Google Plus icon up at the very top, right next to Pinterest, which is another social icon that or social website we didn't talk about. Google Plus, as I mentioned earlier, no longer exists. So could you imagine the frustration for this website that somebody clicked off of their website to another page that doesn't exist, which is, you know, in some ways the mortal sin to websites. So what should you do? Just simply go to your websites when we're done here and just make sure that the social icons that you have on your site only lead to profiles that you're actively managing. And if there's any on there, Pinterest is a great example. Pinterest might have been important to you a few years ago. Maybe it's slowed down, but if you're not actively managing it, don't put it on your website. Don't have somebody go, oh, let me go check that out. Leave your website and go to a place you're not actively managing. One other thing to note on this website, because I forgot to put it on the list there, but I think it's important, is social proof. I love seeing what I call social proof on websites. And what that means is what can be said about your business that says you're the best in the industry or in the local area that doesn't have you saying it. So in this case, they were the best of Destin for multiple years in a row. That's an example of social proof. You know, another one might be years in the industry. You wouldn't be in business for 25 years if you weren't doing something right. It might be you know, brands that you've worked with. It might be testimonials, but things that you can put on your website that would make me as a potential customer say, oh wow, that's impressive. You know, if I say, oh wow, that's impressive, you're building trust and credibility with me. And those are the things you want to put on there. Me saying, you know, we are the best in the business says nothing to you in terms of whether that's true or not, but someone else saying it, a third party saying it of some kind, makes it much more credible. Okay, so let's move on. So those are website best practices. Again, if any questions come in, feel free to use the questions tab there. Let us know if this has been helpful so far. And if you have any questions come up, certainly not done yet. One little bonus tip regards to websites is I mentioned earlier about growing your tribe by 10%. And a great place to do that is with email contacts. So if you have 1,000 email subscribers, can you get to 1,100 by the end of the year here? If you've got 10,000, can you get to 1,000 extra? And one way to do that is for us to have a very compelling call to action on our websites to get people's email address. So the first thing you got to think about is what can you give away in exchange for somebody's email address? And you need to think about that. It needs to be something compelling in exchange for me to give you my email. It might be a report of some kind. It might be a discount. It might be you know, some tools and tips, something within your industry that would make me say, you know, I don't like giving out my email address, but I gotta have this. So here's my email. And then what I see this missed all the time, and people use these pop-up windows, and you're probably shaking your head right now because people hate these pop-up windows. The reason we hate these pop-ups is because they interrupt us at the wrong time. They interrupt us either at the beginning or during our experience on your website. You should have an exit pop-up on your website if you were to have one. What that means is it does not show up until they're ready to leave. So they've been on your website, they've been navigating, they're done, they go over to the X bar. You've seen this before. The big brands do it all the time. Wait, before you go, here's something compelling in exchange for your email address. That's the perfect time to do it. They were leaving anyway. So write down exit pop-up, try it on your website and see if your conversions to email address captures go up. All right, so your take action part of this segment of the presentation, do the thumb test to make sure that your website is mobile responsive. Make sure you have current info and safety guidelines on the homepage of your website and any other digital asset, including your Google My Business page, including your social profiles, and give me a compelling reason to give you my contact information. Okay, here's another big one for a lot of you, especially those of you who have local businesses, which I know most of you have. If you're a brick and mortar and you have things like Google My Business and Yelp and those type of things, do create a process for positive feedback. So what I mean by this is simple. We are more motivated to leave a review when we're unhappy than when we're happy. So what we have to do as businesses is when our customers have had a good experience with us, we have to motivate them to leave a response. I don't care where that response is. Over time, all the buckets will be filled. It could be a Facebook review. It could be a Twitter, Instagram mention. It could be a Google My Business review or a Yelp review. But over time, we want to make sure that we have some sort of system in place that when somebody says to us, thank you, this has been a great experience, you say, you're welcome. And the best way to thank me is to do this. And I'll explain that in just a second. So creating a process for positive feedback. The reason we do this is because so many of us in business focus on the wrong thing. We focus on the negative. We're so concerned about the one negative Norm or Nancy who will eventually come along and share something negative about our business, whether or not it was warranted or not, but it will happen. This is the day and age of the keyboard warrior, right? The people who just jump online and talk smack about us. So we can just simply wait for that to happen, which I don't want you to do, or we can be proactive on positive. Now, just to take a break for a second and allow us to enjoy, I do this all day and day in and day out. And so over time, I've found some fun reviews that just made me laugh, and I want to share those with you. So this is how crazy the world can get. So let's see a few examples of these. This one was just super creative. Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Has a great overall review, but they had one 2-star review by a guy named Abe L. And he says, I was murdered here, would not recommend. So those of you who are history buffs get that joke. So that was pretty funny. Good old Yelper. This is out of the you can never satisfy everyone category. This person said the beach is too sandy. The water was fine, but the beach too sandy. So that one to me, I just say to myself, wow, sorry that the beach had so much sand. That's weird. And then this one's near and dear to my heart because I've written a few books, and I can tell you the amount of crazy reviews that you see on book reviews. But this one was from Pac-Man, and it was on Where is Baby's Belly Button, and he gave it a 1-star review and said, do not buy this book. The ending is given away right on the cover because baby is showing indeed his belly button. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. It's just sometimes you just got to laugh at some of these things, right? But or cry. It's one or the two. But the point of all this, as I mentioned in the beginning of this little section here, is this is the takeaway I want you to do: is get you, your team, anyone who interacts with the customer to burn this in their brain. The best way to thank us is to post about us. So anytime you get an email, a text, a DM, or face-to-face, God, hope down the road when we're back face-to-face again, and somebody says thank you or says something kind about your services or products, you immediately respond with, you are welcome. And the best way to thank us is to simply post about us on Instagram. If you don't mind doing that, using the hashtag blank, 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 it would make my day. And here's a card or here's an email to show you exactly how to do that. Create a process to make it easy for people to leave you a review, give you a mention, or shout out your business. Another big do in my list of do's and don'ts is to create a content calendar. And I always use this as a best practice, but I will tell you that, I own an agency, a social media marketing agency. We do the social media marketing, email marketing for other businesses. And we have a content calendar for each of our clients. And we have gone back to all of our clients and reworked the content calendar and the categories because of COVID, just to make sure that our content is super related to the times. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we always got to be like, COVID-19 or COVID, Debbie Downers, but at least make sure that our content is matching the context, the world that our people are in right now. So what I mean by content calendar is this is something for you and your entire team to have, to know each day of the week has a certain category for content. It makes it so much easier for both the social media marketer as well as the higher ups or the business owner or the rest of the people in the company. So I just gave you a quick example here, is something you could play with, but just use these as examples. But Motor Monday, that might be, highlighting a certain car or a product or something like that. I know your industry, not, obviously as well as you guys do, but enough to know that you have the most passionate tribe of any industry I've ever been in. So just talking about your cars and products and features and things of that nature will light up your social media. Test Track Tuesday. So I know a lot of, maybe especially in COVID, testing some of the cars and going out to tracks and doing some social distancing racing and stuff like that is something that you can live stream or post about that people get super excited about. What is it Wednesday? It might be just, if you have a certain process to replacing parts in cars and it's super complex and you want to kind of give people a little bit of the behind the scenes look to what it means to do what you guys do and the quality that you do. What is it Wednesday would be a cool way to do that. Thank you Thursday might just be a place to thank your customers. Show some products that you have before and afters and thank your customer for trusting you with that service. And then, what we've been doing a lot with Fridays is just simply a local good news story. You guys remember John Krasinski's Some Good News and how much it blew up. Man, we're just so desperate for some good, lighthearted news with COVID and the election and all this stuff coming up. So if you see a good local story and you're definitely a local business, I would target Friday for just some good old-fashioned community love, which I think will serve you really well. But this is just an example. Use it as much as you want, but to have categories and for your team to know, oh man, today's Motor Monday, do you guys have enough content? Do you need any things? I got like a video I just shot, it's awesome. Everybody working together as a team is super cool. So your take action part is come up with some content categories first off, as I just mentioned, and then a potential calendar for September through December. And so what that means is we're going into September, October, November, December. What's going to happen? Obviously, SEMA happens in November, hopefully, virtually probably. And so, what are we doing for that? What are we doing for the fall? What are we doing for December? Are we scaling back because of the holidays? Just having a system in place with those content categories will really make it much more efficient, easier for your team moving forward. And here's the key. It makes sure that the business owner and the rest of the folks on the team know what's happening on your social media, because it is a recipe for disaster when your social media and your business owner don't know what's happening. because all of a sudden back to school posts start happening on August when people aren't going back to school physically. And that's not good. So by having these conversations, and make sure that that kind of stuff doesn't happen. Involve the team. If you're not meeting face to face, do it over Zoom. Commit to being involved if you're the business owner. All right, I got a couple more for you, and then we'll end hopefully about right on time and open up for some questions for you and such. Do more video, as I mentioned before, showing your face and making sure that you're doing stories. You saw Instagram, for some of you are Instagram users, just came out with Reels. And so more opportunity for us to explore video. And I know for some of you, you're like, oh man, yeah, Corey, but you know, it's another thing for me to try to figure out, hey, this is a great time to do it. You know, if you've been waiting to start to get more consistent on video, this is a great time to do it. We got a little more time on our hands. Let's learn a new skill. Let's become Instagram Live experts. Let's become Facebook Live experts. Let's start shooting a video once a week. And when we get back to business as normal, you'll have that in your back pocket to use as you go along. It's much easier once you got it down than starting from scratch. Some video ideas, go live and answer some questions. So maybe on Wednesdays, you do a 30-minute live segment on Instagram and Facebook, and you answer questions, or you tour an automobile and show people some of the work that you've done and answer questions about it with your tribe. How cool would that be? Go behind the scenes if you're working on a car, or you're doing something, an install or something to that effect, and you want to kind of give them a little bit of intel of what you're talking about, a little bit of the secret sauce without giving too much away. That would be really cool. My question to you is, what are your fans missing, and how can you fill the void with video? You know, think about that and talk to your team about that and see, and which platforms make the most sense to shoot that video on. This is just a little bonus tip for you all who are going to or are already using video. I like to put subtitles below my video so people can read as well as listen. A lot of times we watch videos on mute for different reasons. And so this is a way simply to quickly add the words to your video. This is called Clips. It's an iPhone app, and it automatically, as you'll see here, everyone, it's Corey Perlman with just a quick cool tip for you for shooting video. So I'm playing with a new tool for me called Clips. It's on your iPhone app, and it enables us to shoot video just like this, but also puts these transcriptions, subtitles, whatever you want to call them, right in automatically. This is actually happening. I'm actually reading what I'm saying to you as I say it. And it's pretty accurate. And just so you all know, I don't know if that buffered a little bit to you, but it comes out just perfectly clear. And oftentimes when I use the word LinkedIn, it thinks I said Lincoln. And so I have to go in, and it's easy to do and change a couple words in there, but it's pretty accurate, as I mentioned in the video there. Question I'm often asked is there a version for Android and things of that nature? Not from Clips. So you'll have to, I'm an iPhone, Apple user, so that's the one I have to give you. It's hard for me to recommend tools I don't use. So you'll have to go into the marketplace and check that out if you're an Android user. A couple other quick things here. Especially in your business, a lot of you sell products and things of that nature. And so this is just a friendly reminder to have a social ad budget. What I mean by that is if you're using Facebook and Instagram to market your business, to sell products, even to sell your services, and it's a primary tool for you, you got to have an ad budget. You have to, you know, and people always ask me, how much should you have? And you know, it can start off by a couple $100, right, to boost posts and to do some advertising. But the bottom line is when we create posts on our Instagram and Facebook page, only a small percentage of people organically get a chance to see it, right? Facebook's a publicly traded company, so they are looking for ways to generate revenue, and ads are the way they do it. So we have to sprinkle a little bit of the lighter fluid on there, as you see the picture here, and that's money. And so if you put out a new product for the fall, or a special, or you know, you've got a service, or you know people are really thinking about a certain service come winter time is a good example, that's the kind of post that you want to sprinkle some lighter fluid on. But definitely know if you are up here and you're not doing your social media marketing, somebody else is doing it, that the consultant that you're listening to right now says, yeah, I mean, you do need to have an ad budget. I don't know how much money you need to have because I don't know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, but it is fair to say that all businesses need to have some sort of ad budget if they're using Facebook and Instagram as marketing platforms. One other thing, I'm not going to talk about LinkedIn ads, but remarketing, just to put in a bug in your ear, it's one of my favorite strategies when it comes to using your ad budget. And what that means is somebody goes to your website. You think about Amazon. You go to Amazon, you search for a spatula, you decide not to buy spatula, and then that little darn spatula follows you around the web. That's remarketing, and you can do it too. So somebody goes to your website and they're looking at a certain product, they don't buy for whatever reason, they go back to Facebook, they go back to Instagram, and they start seeing little ads saying, hey, we got a 10% off discount on that product that you were looking at a little bit earlier. You can absolutely do that. And it's a really cool way to stay top of mind. And it's a way that we often use our ad budgets for our clients. And I think this is the last one. I think this is an important do, and then we'll do a quick summary, and then I'll open up for some questions. Do engage. So this is an easy one that we often forget to do on social, and that's to go out and to engage with our customers, with our prospects on their social. So I spend 15 minutes a day as the owner of my business with no intention of creating content on social, but to simply go out and engage, specifically with VIPs. So that would be prospects, customers, clients, whatever the case may be. And because they're looking for likes, they're looking for shares, they're looking for audience members on LinkedIn Lives or Instagram Lives. And so I go out and I just become an audience member, whether it be a like, a comment, or a share. So when I say be down with OPP, it means other people's posts. Respond to engagement on your page. So don't go to create new content, but if somebody has liked your page or especially written a comment or asked a question, make sure that you respond there. But I spend 15 minutes a day with the sole purpose to engage with other people's content online to make sure that they're seeing me show the love to them and their business. I think that's a huge do. So in summary, connect, build your tribe, increase your tribe. Do not wind up on websites that suck.com. So make sure that you have a current mobile friendly website that has the most up-to-date information on the top. Create a process for positive feedback. So when somebody says, thank you, I love you guys, you rock, you create the best products, you do the best services, that you have a process in place to get that posted online. Do create a content calendar. Be organized. The more organized you are, the easier it is to implement and the more efficient you will be. Do have an ad budget, even if it's $100 or a couple $100 to allow the person who's posting to your social to get your message across to your audience. Do engage, and that just means do comment, share, like on your customer and prospects content. And last but not least, and I'll end with this, don't misuse this time. And what I mean simply by that is everything we've talked about today. There's some key points, some things that you can do now to plant the seeds for when we get back to business as usual. Don't misuse this time. Use this time to create a better website, to build your social following, to create a content calendar for the future, things that are in the important, not urgent box, but are still so important. And then last but not least, don't misuse this time with your family either. And so I'm so happy to say that I'm at home, and as much as I miss being on the road and seeing you all face to face, as soon as I'm done with this and answer your questions, I get to go upstairs and have lunch with my kiddos, and that's pretty cool. So I try to look at the bright side of things, and that is certainly a bright side. So thank you all for listening and hopefully enjoying some of these points. And now I'd love to open it up for some questions.
All right. So this has been awesome. I mean, I love the tips and tricks that are coming out of here. This is one of those things for the last few years, especially everybody's hearing about social. And it's nice to have an organized way to look at it.
Thank you.
Let me start with one thing. I talk to a lot of companies, especially, on the retail, the shop side. One of the things from an old school standpoint, people used to go to the yellow pages, right? They went to the phone. The physical phone book is dead, right? But people still need that service that it provided, right? And to me, you know, for the old school people, a lot of this is how do we now provide that same type of service? Is really how do we find people or have people find us, right? And, you know, all of that or most of that digital content drives back to your website. So your website better be good.
Correct.
But
And
one,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but one area that I always feel like people sort of forget is, especially if you're, you know, public facing, if you have a shop, if you have retail, is, you know, people physically have to find you too. So, you know, look at Google Maps. How do you show up there? Have Siri search for your business. What do you get? What comes up? Those are some of the other things I think people should be thinking about, especially when they are in those public facing businesses.
I completely agree with you, and that's such an excellent point, because it's one of the areas that I probably, if I had a little bit more time, that would be the next place I would have gone. Is I mentioned Google My Business, I mentioned Yelp, and some of these places. It's exactly what you're talking about. It's the, you know, it's the 21st century Yellow Pages, which essentially is Google, and just making sure, and like you said, Siri, and to some degree Alexa, right? But just making sure that it's easy to find your business. And here's two very key things on that. One is you do the search, just like you said. Make sure you've claimed your property that you can claim. So like your Google My Business page can be claimed by the business. Yelp can be claimed so that you can respond to reviews and update information. And lots of directories give you the opportunity to claim your listing. And then I mentioned about your website and updating it with current COVID information. These sites should be updated as well. Imagine somebody doing a search for you and easily being able to see that your hours of operation have temporarily changed due to COVID. Those things are absolutely critical to do on those assets that you're talking about.
Awesome. All right, so another question, can you speak to different tones that should be used on different social platforms, right? What's effective, and should you change the way you're going out to each of them?
Yeah, and I'm not sure who, if I don't answer this question the way you were looking for, please let me know. But I'm thinking more like, you know, the different social platforms and how to post to them differently. And I'll give you a couple examples of that. You know, Facebook allows for a little bit more content. And first, let me just tell you that most of the time we present a social graphic or post to an individual platform. So what I mean by that is, if we're doing a post for a business on Thursday, that post will look different on Facebook than it does on Instagram, and it'll look different on LinkedIn than it does on Twitter. And we do that simply for the exact what you're talking about. The tone is a bit different. So Facebook allows for a little bit more content. It allows for simply put, you know, a little bit more written content. Instagram doesn't, right? So everybody knows who's an Instagram follower that images and video are dominant, and if you overdo it with content or you try to put, it doesn't work. Hashtags become a much bigger deal on Instagram than on Facebook. So hashtags have a place on Instagram. They look a little silly on Facebook even today, even though Facebook's trying to display them more, but it's still a little off. LinkedIn is doing the same thing, but it still doesn't look make as most sense as it does on Instagram. And then LinkedIn, just as an example, we didn't talk much about that today, but that's more the B2B, business to business network. So when we're doing a LinkedIn post for a company, it might look a little bit different than it does on Instagram and Facebook. So yes, the culture is different on each platform, and therefore we create content differently on each platform, and we try to relate to that platform as best we can. When we fail, or when any of us fail, is when we generically post something out across all platforms using a third-party site or something like that, and don't take the time to make some of those changes. It looks kind of silly on those different platforms.
Great. So, all right, you gave everybody a goal, increase 10%, right? They're going to increase their following 10%. do you have a go-to strategy? You know, where's the first place they want to start to make that happen? I'm ready to do it. What's the first thing I got to do?
I think that a sort of an easy way to do it is, you know, to create a small ad budget for Instagram and or Facebook and do a like campaign or a follow campaign, and you know, work on your demographics and qualifying those people as best you can to, you know, your location, to their interests, that type of thing. But if you got a little bit of income or excess money to be able to use, and again, when I say an amount, you know, it could be, you know, $150 for the month of August and or September. It just really depends on the size of your business and how targeted you are with those likes. But that's one way of doing it. I would explore hashtags on Instagram and really start to focus in on some of the more current and common hashtags, especially in the world of SEMA, where you have industry hashtags that are very, very popular. And you guys would know those better than I would, but actively using those in your content, where it makes sense, of course, I think is really important. Using tags appropriately, tagging influences or businesses when it makes sense can give you a nice boost in terms of fans and following, so that if maybe you mention a racer or a sponsor, tag them, of course. You know, and hopefully they will respond and their followers will get a chance to look at your brand as well.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to give you one last one. You got 2 minutes. You know, you're a small business. Obviously, professional content would be great, but you can't pay for that. What do you do? How professional do you need to get? Do you need to buy special equipment? You know, hire somebody to do if you want to create some content?
Yeah, that's a great way to end it. And I'll give you some, make you feel a little bit probably better with that is no, you know, perfection is the enemy of progress, especially in the world of social media marketing. And take it from a guy who got C's throughout his whole entire collegiate career. You know, I've always been a big believer of just getting stuff out there, and it may have a couple of things that aren't perfect, but those who are waiting to be perfect and are 2 months in and still haven't posted yet are the ones that are missing the boat. So number one, progress over perfection. Number two, I'll give you a couple quick tools. If you're going to be doing this yourself and you're going to roll up your sleeves and go to work, Canva is going to be your best friend. Canva.com. Canva. It's a free tool. It'll make you look like a graphic designer even though you're not. And you'll love it to death. So Canva will make you look like a social media ninja, and it's very, very easy to use. And then last but not least, about the professionalism, you know, even with video, this bad boy right here, if you can see that, my phone, your phone, is a great video tool. Use it, and don't be afraid to use it. And the one last thing I'll give you is if you're shooting out, go horizontal. If you're shooting a selfie, I'm fine with vertical, but if you're shooting like a car or a racetrack, horizontal. Shoot horizontal. If you learn nothing else, there's your best tip that you'll hear all day. There you go.
There you go. Hey, Corey, thank you. This was great. It was entertaining, but I think it was a lot of great value there. On a spot that you're right, this is so topical right now. It's a great time to push these strategies. And thank you very much. So, all right, that wraps up this episode of Shifting Gears Back to Business. Thank you all for attending. Thanks again to Corey for all the insight. We really do hope you're walking away with some really good ideas and strategies that you can implement in your business right now. We'll be sending out a recording of today's webinar you can refer back to. You can share it with colleagues. You'll also receive an invitation for a short survey. We love to hear your feedback. It's all about helping us do better and helping you. So we'll be back Wednesday, September 2nd with Gene Marks to close out the series with the topic of Beyond the Pandemic. If you're not yet registered, you can do so at SEMA.org/reopen and click on the webinars button at the top. You can also find postings of our previous webinars in the series if you missed out on them. So thank you very much for being here. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and have a great rest of your day.